Hey everybody, it's Coach Matt, EliteThrowsCoaching.com, coming to you today to talk about our deadlift day. Now this is the third day this week, but it's actually our second week of training, and it's our second week back deadlifting after a very long layoff. Just to recap, I have not deadlifted or squatted before these past 2 weeks. I have not done any of those movements since about Christmas, and today is actually May 1st. So it has been just about 4.5 months or so since doing any type of heavy deadlifting or heavy squatting, and we're just getting right back into it. And this is the perfect way to explain to all of you how to come back to training after a very long layoff. And that's the name of this series. It's getting back to work, getting back to training, getting back in the gym after a very long layoff. So the big lesson I hope all of you have been taking from these videos is that you need to be writing everything down. Everything needs to be written down. You need to write down the exercises that you do. You need to track the amount of sets and repetitions and weight that you do. You need to write down all the variables of the exercises that you are doing. That way you know what to change week by week. Making those small changes, no matter what those changes are going to elicit a response, and you are going to get better because of it. Your body will adjust, your body will get stronger, and making those changes in a very small way is the best way of doing it. So let's take a look at what we did last week. Last week was deadlift, and as you saw in last week's video, week 1, we did this type of deadlift. Now this is a very detailed breakdown of the deadlift that I did because I used some different equipment, some things that you may or may not have at your disposal, but no matter what you do, you need to write it down. So it was a modified sumo deadlift, meaning it was not a super wide sumo, but it was not a conventional deadlift. I deadlift with a little bit wider than normal stance with my elbows just inside of my knees. So I'm not like super wide sumo, but I'm a little bit more of a narrow sumo, sort of a modified sumo deadlift. I pulled off of 9 inches worth of those blocks. I was wearing a belt. I was wearing my flat deadlifting shoes. That does make a difference because it adjusts how tall I am. A nice flat shoe, I'm basically standing on the ground, almost barefoot. If I was wearing like a basketball sneaker or a running sneaker, those have a lot more padding. So I like to write down the type of shoes that I wear as well. I was working up in sets of 2. And this is the weight that I had used, 135 for 5 as a warm-up, 185 for 3 sort of as a second warm-up, 225 for 2, 275 for 2, 315 for 2. Now those last week, those were very easy. It was my first time coming back in deadlifting, like I said, in about 4.5 months. So this was something where I wanted to go up. I had the goal of 315 in mind. Could I have gone heavier, 365, 405 or heavier, pulling off those 9 inches of blocks? Absolutely, but I knew to play it safe, just stop right there. I didn't want to destroy myself or risk getting hurt my first day back deadlifting since about Christmas time. All right. I also used a deadlift bar. Deadlift bars have a little bit more whip, a little bit more bend to them than a traditional straight power bar. Now for this week, week 2, I'm going to be keeping everything exactly the same with the exception of the blocks that I'm pulling off of. I'm going to take out 3 inches of those blocks so that I'm just pulling off of a 6-inch riser, a 6-inch block rather than the 9-inch block. But everything else is going to be exactly the same. I'm going to do the same exact stance. I'm still going to be wearing the belt, the flat shoes, still going to be working up to a set of 2, still going to be doing the same amount of weight, the same amount of repetitions, and using the same exact bar. Why not change multiple things? Well, again, this is a 12-week program, and you want to make small changes every week without going crazy. So what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of the tendency that I see a lot, and what you guys typically want to do when I talk to people and help people out and coach people is they want to change everything week to week. They want to go, okay, well this week I'm going to do a conventional, I'm going to pull off the ground, I'm not going to wear a belt, I'm going to be barefoot, and I'm going to do sets of 3 with heavier weight, and I'm going to use a power bar. It's like, well, you just changed everything. You know, you're basically starting over again at that point because you don't know how much weight is going to be used. You don't know, how the deadlift bar is going to feel different from a power bar. So you don't know how much you're going to be pushing yourself. There's no line. There's no incremental jumps. You're just kind of throwing darts at the board and hoping something sticks at that point. Making small changes is a much smarter way of doing things. Okay. From there, we did lat pull downs. Now, this was a surprise last week because usually I work with 180 to 200 pounds on my lat pull downs. Last week, doing 160 for 4 sets of 12 was really tough. Actually, the first set I did, I was like, I thought I put the bar or the pin at 180. I'm going, man, was that 180 or 160? That felt really heavy. I thought it was going to be light, so I stuck with it. 4 sets of 12. This week, I'm going to bump up to 170. I'm still going to do 4 sets. I'm going to try to do 12 on every set, but I may or may not get there. So the one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the weight, hopefully get 12, but I'm just going to do as many as I can at 170 and try to get 4 sets of 12. But the one thing I'm going to change going into the workout is going to be the weight. I'm just going to bump it up 10 pounds. Hamstring curls. Last week, 4 sets of 12. I did 35 pounds for the first set and then 45 pounds for the next 3 sets. Now, the other day, I learned that sometimes making too big of a jump is not the smartest thing in the world to do because I did get caught on an exercise the other day, if you go back and watch that video, where I just made too big of a jump way too quick and I shouldn't have. So I'm going to learn my lesson this week. Instead of going maybe like 45, 45, 55, 65, or 45, 55, 65, 75, trying to jump too big. I'm just going to do 45, 45, 45, and then 55. So I know 3 sets at 45 is not going to be super difficult. So the last set, I'm just going to bump up another 10 pounds. So again, nice small change. The reverse hypers and the face pulls, just like I did on my squat day, all I'm going to do is add 1 set. So last week was 2 sets of 15 at 80 pounds. This week will be 3 sets of 15 at 80 pounds. Last week, the face pulls, I used that black 1/2-inch band, 3 sets of 20. This week, I'm going to do 4 sets of 20. So I'm just going to go back and forth. Face pull, hyper, face pull, hyper, face pull, hyper, face pull. Same as I did on squat day. Everything else is the same. The warm-up stretches are going to be the same, so I'm not going to show you those. The warm-up circuit is going to be the same, so again, I'm not going to show you that. You can reference week 1 if you need to see those things. But pretty much everything here you can see, it's a very slight variation. It's a very small change on the main movement, 1 change on the accessory movements, and the warm-up is exactly the same. So we are going to make some changes. It is going to be more difficult pulling from a lower position. It is going to be more difficult because the weight is a little bit heavier, and it's going to be more volume because I've got the additional set on each one of those exercises, so that it is more of a challenge. It is a little bit more difficult, but it's not impossible. It's not, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that. It's not 5 sets at 180 with my fingers crossed that I get it. It's not 55, 65, 75, 85 with, oh my God, I hope I get it. It's not 3 sets of 15 at 100 pounds or 120 pounds. It's not 4 sets of 20 with a really thick band. I'm not making all these additional changes that will compound and make the exercises or make the workout that much harder. Nice, small, incremental changes. That's why you need to make sure you write everything down, document everything. So let's get into it. Let's show you what this all looks like, and I will report back after the voiceover to let you know how it went. All right, let's take a look. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what these blocks look like. So I'm just unloading. This is actually weight was left on here last week, which is pretty hysterical. I'm kind of lazy about putting my weights away. I own the gym and nobody else is training in there right now, so I can leave my stuff on there if I want to. But if you take a look here, you can see how easily it slides out. It's basically made out of 2x6s. So the first one you'll see here, there's a 3 2x6s on the top, and the bottom is 2 2x6s and a 2x4. And they're about 12 by 15 approximately. They're not too big, or 15 by 18 maybe. And when I'm done with them, there's a little space here in the side of the gym. Throw them on the ground, stack them up. It's just basically wood, really easy to make with some wood screws and whatnot. So here is 135. This is for 5 reps. And The thing is with the 6-inch blocks that they are 3 inches lower than last week. It's a little bit more leg drive before I squeeze my butt and bring my hips to the bar. So you can see at the very beginning, it's more of a vertical pull. It's more of a vertical kind of, I like to call it like a leg press into the ground. Like you leg press the bar up. So you can see here, and as we move around, I did like I did last week, where I took you on like a little half moon video tour of me doing some deadlifts here. But you'll see how I'm really trying to work on driving my knees out and driving my knees open. So I like to say, show the inside of your knees to the wall in front of you. So I'm trying to drive the knees out. It's a push with the legs for about 3 inches, and then squeezing the butt to bring the hips toward the bar. So you can see here, much better angle of how I'm really trying to drive the knees out, show the inside of my knees to the wall in front of me. So as the bar goes down, I'm trying to really shove my knees out. Not too bad. So 225 right there, very simple. Again, lazy, didn't take the 25s off before adding. So here's 275. It's a 45, a 25, and another 45 on each side. It's a little backwards. I'd probably yell at my athletes if they ever did anything like this, but again, nobody was in there to watch me, so I just did it myself. And this is the last set, I believe. This is 315. Yep, 315. And you can see here, I kind of had to reset myself after the first one. I lost tightness, so it just took a second, got tight again, pulled. Very simple, very easy. The lat pull downs today were a little bit harder. Last week, 160 for 4 sets of 12 was pretty rough. This is 170. I want you to keep a look at that bar behind me. That's the Swiss bar that we used the last time we were in the gym and we were doing some pressing. Notice how the end of the bar is, I'm barely hitting the end of the bar with the back of my neck. You can see here, I just kind of go over the end of the bar with the back of my neck. In the last set or two of each round, you'll see there's a little bit more body English. So the first couple reps here, you can see the back of that bar, or the end of that bar is barely touching the back of my head. So this is the second set of 12. Now you can see I'm starting to use a little bit more body English. Now the bar is kind of right in line with the back of my head. And the last couple reps, I'm really yanking a little bit. So this is heavier weight for me, 170, which is crazy because I think usually I'd work 180, 190, 200, but that's big body English right there. But normally, you know, this is what happens. You take time off, 5-6 weeks off from lifting, you get back into it. We're in this whole coronavirus quarantine thing that we're doing right now, so it's hard to get back in the gym, but getting to it here. So this is the first set of 11. You can see just how much I'm really yanking back now. So I stopped here and tried to correct it, tried not to use as much, but you can see here, especially the last couple of sets, or the last couple of reps, I'm really yanking my body back. My head's almost in line with that rack instead of with that bar. So I'm actually pulling my head back, pulling my upper body back a lot more. And this is the last round. This is the fourth set. You can see here the body English toward the end gets pretty bad. I'm trying really hard to control it. This machine is not the best either because of where the arm is located at the top, where that top pulley is located. And based on my arm length and everything else, it's kind of hard to get it in a good spot, but you can see really had to go on those. This is a funny one, so I wanted to show you. This machine is very tall. I'm 6'3". Everyone in the gym has trouble climbing on this thing. It's like it should have a step. But this is 45 pounds. This is the first set of 45 pounds for a set of 12. I forgot if I was doing 12 or 15, so I kind of glance over at the board where everything was written down to try to remember if it was 12 or 15. And then if you notice, right near my right thigh, there is a handle. That handle is supposed to be something for you to hold on to when you do leg extensions. So as I climb off this thing, I actually almost fall and bite it on this one. So getting off, I get a shoelace caught in that handle. You can see it right here. And then, I almost eat dirt on that one. That would not have been fun. Just lucky. That's usually how I hurt my back. So I'm very lucky that I didn't twist or fall or do anything crazy. But every other round, I was very, very cautious that I did not get my shoelace trapped in that handle. This is 55 pounds, so this is the fourth set, 55 pounds. I only got 10 and a half. I couldn't even get the 11th rep, so I've just called it 10. That's okay, especially when you're increasing weight. It's okay to not get all of your repetitions in. I'll show you at the end of this video how you can do the math to make sure that you still are making progress on total volume as you do it. So not too bad. This one here, I wanted to give you a kind of behind the head look of these face pulls. So notice my hands. As I pull the band back, my hands are opening. And because the band is circular, I'm being resisted from opening my hands. So I'm pulling my arms back, pulling my hands back, and I'm stretching the band open as I pull the band back. So I wanted to show you all that it's not just pulling the band straight back like we do on the fourth day. It's opening and pulling at the same time. Much different feeling. Reverse hypers. You've all seen these before at this point. I got an email the other day from somebody that was asking me about the machine and if I liked it or not. It's really just a glute and lower back strengthening machine. That's really what this was made for. I love the stretch it gives me at the bottom, but I also love that it is building strength in my lower back and my glutes, which is an extremely weak area for me. I am pretty skinny. I am pretty small in that area. I have a naturally kind of a thinner waist and thinner hips, so anything I can do to get those stronger is a big deal for me. And then finally, I wanted to show you just a different view of those face pulls. You can see in this one how when I pull the band toward my forehead, I'm stretching the band out. I'm trying to stretch and open the band up, separate my hands as I pull the band back. So just a different viewpoint for all of you, not a different exercise, but just a way for you to see exactly what that looks like. You're pulling back the band and opening it and stretching it open at the same time as you're stretching it back. So it's a much different feeling. Okay, I am a sweaty mess. So let's talk about today. Nothing too remarkable or spectacular to report upon, but I want to show you how to do some math to check your work, make sure that you are actually making it more difficult and adding volume every single week. That's kind of the goal. Again, one of the goals we had up there the other day was to put on some size. In order to do that, you do have to use heavier weight. You do have to do more volume, more repetitions, more sets, more reps, more weight, all that stuff. So to go through, deadlift was pretty much status quo. Still felt really light. The lower box didn't make it that much more difficult. In fact, I think that lower box, I'm actually able to get into a better position to use a little bit more leg drive before I squeeze my butt and drive my hips into the bar. So I actually kind of like that position better. The 6-inch blocks is, I guess, a little easier for me than the 9-inch blocks, which is kind of weird, but hey, we're all a little bit different. This is where the lat pull downs, as you saw. So last week I did 12 sets of 4 at 160 and it was pretty tough. The goal this week was to do 170 and just see what I could get. So I did 170 for 4 sets. The first set for 12, second set for 12, third set for 11, and the last one used a lot of body English. The fourth set for 11, and the last 2 or 3 used a lot of body English. So that's how I know, like, all right, we're good right there. You know, that's gonna do it. That's pretty decent. And it felt heavy, it felt good, but then you have to go back and you have to check your work and find your total overall volume. So when we say volume, a lot of times we talk about sets times reps. So 4 sets of 10, 40 repetitions. 4 sets of 12, 48 repetitions. So you multiply. So last week, if you do the total amount of volume, the total overall volume, it's sets times repetition times the weight. So last week was 4 sets of 12, which is 48 total repetitions, times 160 pounds. Now I had to write it really small, so you might not be able to see it, but that's 7,680 pounds, okay? So let's see what we did this week. 170 times 12, 170 times 12, 170 times 11, 170 times 11. That equals out to 7,820. So when you do the math, it's actually 140 pounds more than what I did last week. So even though the repetitions were a little bit lower on those last 2 sets, it was 1 lower than last week, the additional 10 pounds made up for it, and we're still making progress. Same thing on the last set of hamstring curls. When I put 55 on the bar, I can only get 10.5. Barely was able to get to the 11th, so we just called it 10. So 4 sets of 12 last week, when you do the math, 2,040 pounds. 4 sets this week, 12, 12, 12, and 10 at the heavier weight. When you do the math, 2,170 pounds. So that, even though there were 2 fewer repetitions on that last set, because the weight was heavier, it made up for it. And we had 130 pounds of extra weight that I did this week. So again, it's not a lot of additional volume because it is only 130 pounds. It's a couple of reps. Really, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't amount to that much, but it was enough where we can say we made progress, okay? Also this week, the reverse hypers, face pulls, we did 1 extra set of each. So it's the same amount of weight, it's the same amount of repetitions, it's just 1 extra set per exercise, so we have more volume. So we've got a more difficult movement, a more higher range of motion, greater range of motion. We've got more total overall volume, more total overall volume, more total overall volume, which means we have made progress. Now again, this is why you have to write everything down so you can look back at what you did the previous weeks. So tomorrow we are going to be doing the overhead work, the leftovers workout, trying to break those records from last week. It's going to be tricky, it's going to be tough because again, kettlebells that I do for overhead pressing, those only go up in 4 kilo increments. So am I going to be able to make that jump up to a 28 kilo from the 24 kilo and still hit the same amount of repetitions? I don't know, especially with the shoulder injury. We're going to have to wait and see, play it by ear, but we'll take care of all that tomorrow. So thanks again for tuning in. Hopefully this gives you some really good ideas and some really good hints of how to get back to training after a long layoff. I know this probably doesn't apply to you right now. I know the views on these videos are way lower than they normally are. That's because none of you can get into a gym to train. But hopefully you're putting these in a playlist. I'm actually putting them in a playlist as well that you guys can watch. Hopefully you are bookmarking these or doing whatever you need to do. That way when you are able to get back in the gym, you'll be good to go. You'll have a set plan in place and you'll be able to get back to work. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell. And if there's any questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the comment section down below. Thank you again for watching, and I will talk to you tomorrow.